The power struggle in your relationship is actually very little to do with power. And here's why. Every single couple, if they want to go the distance, if they want to have a long-term, healthy, happy, secure relationship, has to go through what we call the power struggle. It is an inevitable part of every single relationship. And so if you're in a stage with your partner where you are having a lot of arguments, where you feel like you're walking around on eggshells, where you feel like everything I say turns into a conflict, we just keep arguing, we keep disagreeing with each other, and things are really quite exhausting. Maybe you're stuck in decision fatigue. Maybe you can't seem to land at a conclusion together. Maybe you just even look at them and somehow an argument starts. Or maybe you go and plan a really lovely date night, and before you know it, it's 10 p.m. and you're having a horrible argument, and maybe there's been some wine consumed, and it's actually all really pretty explosive and unpleasant. If so, I am willing to bet that you are in the power struggle stage. And it is a stage, which is a really good thing because it means that you don't have to stay in the stage. But it does mean that you have to do certain things and take certain actions and tweak certain behaviors to move through this stage. So first, let me kind of walk through the main stages of a relationship, which most people don't actually know. And this is really important because if you are stuck in the power struggle phase and you're feeling really discombobulated, you're feeling like, oh my goodness, this is really horrible. Who is this person that I'm with? Why are they such a demon? And am I actually with the wrong person? And do I actually maybe need to leave this relationship? Is this ever going to get better? Am I ever actually going to be happy? If you are stuck in that thought loop, then the odds are that you are going to make some decisions like leaving your partner that you may then come to regret later, and you'll regret them later. Guess what? You will start going on dates. You will start to meet someone new. You might get into another relationship, and then the power struggle stage will happen, and you'll run into the same problems. And you'll keep jumping from relationship to relationship to relationship, having more and more power struggles, more and more divorces on the back of them. Before you know it, statistically, your odds of divorce are extremely high. For every single divorce that you have, the odds of having another divorce just increase. And eventually you end up dying alone. So this stuff really matters, okay? And the reason this information is so valuable is because when you actually know what's going on and you know what to do about it, you don't get so freaked out by it, right? I will never forget for myself, when I knew I was in the power struggle phase with my husband, I remember telling him like, oh, we have entered the power struggle. This is pretty horrible. And we entered it really early on into our relationship. I think we entered it about 5 months in, really, really early. It was horrible. It was genuinely, disgustingly frightening. And we stayed in it. We stayed in it for a couple of years. We got freaking married within it. I'm not going to go into the details, but we got married in it, and it was pretty hectic. But the reason that I was able to stay and not freak out too much, and the reason that we were able to go on to create more security, more love, more intimacy, more health in our marriage is because we both viewed the power struggle as something that we had to work through and something we had to tackle. It wasn't actually, you and I just fundamentally incompatible. You and I just not meant to be together. You're a bad person, whatever. It was, we are going through this inevitable phase that everyone has to go through. It's not going to be fun. We're not going to enjoy it. But there are certain skills that we need to learn here, and we might need to solicit the help of a couples practitioner, which we did. I do firmly believe that couples counseling is fantastic for awareness building and learning a couple of healthy tools and techniques. So we absolutely did that a couple of times. It might mean that we need to learn some other tools and techniques like imago dialogue, which I teach in my program with my clients. And so myself and my husband did a course on that. It might be that we need to have some deeper conversations, work through some different challenges, have some negotiations. But these are all skills that you can learn and develop to get you through that phase. Now, if you don't know what the power struggle phase is, you are likely to panic, freak out, and potentially leave. And if I look back at my previous relationships, that is absolutely what happened, right? Every single relationship, I look back and I wonder, were we actually incompatible, or did I just jump the gun and leave because of that power struggle being present there? Very much that is actually likely what happened, right? And I'm a firm believer that people have multiple potential partners out there. It's less about finding that kind of quote unquote perfect person and more about finding the person who's willing to grow, to lean in, to learn the different tools and techniques with you, to practice them, to apply them, and to grow through them. And it all starts with you, right? It all starts with you. My husband has not done my curriculum. He has not done even a fraction of the methodologies that I teach. But we still work because I am diligent and I am disciplined about applying myself and showing up as the best version of myself that I can in our relationship. And he has his own unique tools and techniques and methods, which I'm hardly even privy to, but he applies them. And so we bounce off each other, right? We both take accountability, but one of us has to start. And we probably would take turns, right? Because we're both very equally committed, but we probably lead on different things. So what are the stages of a relationship, right? First stage, you have the dating phase. The dating phase is when you are getting to know each other, where you are getting to take time and you are exploring, how does this person fit into my life? And depending on your attachment style, depending on your history, you're going to handle this phase differently. Some people who are more anxiously attached tend to rush through this phase, want to be chosen, want to be picked, want to be in that loving relationship. And so they're very quick to rush through, to not even think about, does this person actually fit into my life? But they want to be chosen. So they want to have that connection. They want to have that commitment, and they jump into that relationship, or they get married really quickly, right? When I look at very anxiously attached couples or anxiously attached people, they often got married super, super fast. The dating phase is really all about data gathering. Dating data, right? You're gathering data on that person to see, are we actually going to be compatible? It's still all hypothetical. You don't really have concrete data. It takes minimum 3 months to see the patterns of behavior in a person. So even if you're dating for 2 to 4 months, you don't really get that much information, but you can get a rough sense, right? Then you might move into the exclusivity phase. And that's really where we see the honeymoon phase. You've chosen each other. You've decided to commit to each other. And so you have all of the lovely cocktail of hormones, all of that dopamine, serotonin, all of that stuff just flooding you, all those endorphins, and you're feeling amazing with them. And it's like you have these rose-tinted glasses where that person is suddenly perfect. They're suddenly so wonderful. And you're like, oh my goodness, they're the bee's knees. I'm so happy I found them. I'm euphoric. I'm in love. Love songs are made about this. And you may well get married at this point. You may well get engaged. You might buy a house together. It's just love. Everything's so lovely and so wonderful. Now, after a while, it could be, a couple of months. If you're anxiously attached, you might move through this phase very quickly. Like myself and my husband did, we moved through honeymoon phase really fast. We kind of hit reality very fast. Or it might drag on for longer, right? If you're both a little bit avoidant, this phase can last a really long time because maybe you're not seeing each other that often. Maybe you're only meeting up once a week and you're kind of dragging out this lovely courtship phase of this honeymoon and deliciousness, and it's wonderful. But eventually it is going to wear off because the hormones are going to wear off, because it's part of the normal evolution, the life cycle of every relationship. You need those hormones to wear off because frankly, if they didn't wear off, you'd get nothing done. Imagine if you're wandering around in that honeymoon phase 24/7, which sounds really nice in theory, but you probably wouldn't be sleeping very well. You wouldn't be focusing at work very well. You wouldn't be able to focus on raising children, right? Those feelings need to wear down. You need to take those rose-tinted glasses off to hit reality, to come back to center. And so again, in honeymoon, often people will have children and then the hormones wear off so that they can focus on raising those children. And so we come to the third phase, which is the inevitable and really healthy phase, which is the power struggle phase. And this is where the conflicts happen. This is where things start to get really heated, start to feel really tense. You start feeling like you're walking around on eggshells. It's really unpleasant. But this is a really normal, healthy phase. And the reason it's really normal and healthy is not only because the hormones have worn off, but because you actually, at this point, you are both committed. You may be married by now. You may have a baby together. You may have a home together. Right? I don't recommend anyone, by the way, making these commitments in the honeymoon phase. I do recommend you tend to get through the power struggle, but not everyone does. I didn't, with my husband, we didn't necessarily get through the power struggle, but the point is that you want to get more clarity on how things shape out in the power struggle. At this point, you have made a commitment with each other, right? And the hormones have worn down and you begin to relax. You begin to feel more like yourself again. You stop people pleasing. You stop performing. You stop being your quote unquote best self to try and win over this other person because you've already won them. You've already got together. You're already in that committed partnership. So you don't need to be trying to be the best version of yourself anymore. And so you start to relax, and that kind of picture perfect mask that you are portraying to them comes off, and theirs comes off. And suddenly you have two people who are in front of each other, who are in a relationship with each other, both of their perfect masks off. And it's like, who are these two people, right? You look at your partner like, who are they? Who did I marry? Who am I in a relationship with? They're very different to how they were at the start. Well, they are very different, yeah. Their true self has come out now. That's not a bad thing. What matters here is how you negotiate your two true selves, meaning as the mask comes off and you start to feel more comfortable and more safe to be your authentic self, to communicate what you need, what your boundaries are, what your expectations are, how you want your work week to look like, how you want your weekends to go, what hobbies you might have. You start to integrate more of the very things that maybe you didn't bring in the honeymoon phase because, again, you are trying to be chosen, right? You were trying to be that, you are in that kind of loving, hormone flooded state. This is often where partners start to negotiate how much time do we actually have apart, right? Often there's only one person who wants more time apart than the other. They start to negotiate, okay, well, when do we see family? When do we see friends? How much are you working? And conflicts start to happen very naturally. The hormones have worn off and you're in a negotiation phase. You're bringing your true selves to the table and you're negotiating how this relationship is going to look like. And so this is, again, a very natural, very healthy phase because, quite frankly, if you don't negotiate, you are not living your true, authentic self. You are living a lie. You are living the honeymoon version of you, which is kind of like you on holiday, right? There's a more real version of you that actually isn't performing, isn't trying to be, liked and popular and blah, 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 but is actually, maybe they need some time alone. Maybe they actually do want to travel and go backpacking around Thailand on their own for 2 weeks. Maybe they do want to work some really long, late hours during the weekend. Maybe they have different needs that the other person isn't really privy to because they haven't really revealed them, right? So in the power struggle phase, this negotiation starts to happen, and it'll happen multiple times throughout your relationship. It'll happen when you have children. It'll happen when you get together. It might happen later in life. This is where you have to really double down, lean into each other, and start growing together by learning the skills of how to have that negotiation. So this means learning to have conflict together. Every couple's going to have different types of conflict, and conflict's going to look different for every type of couple, right? This is about really practicing maybe the relationship skills that you've learned, or maybe you've read about, or maybe you've practiced before with someone else, bringing them to this relationship, leaning in together and tackling the problem being this power struggle, this negotiation that we're in, and tackling it together. So learning how to communicate better, learning to articulate your needs, learning to be assertive around your boundaries, learning to carve out enough space together and space apart, right? So really kind of bringing your needs and your true selves together, but partnering together to solve for the problems that may arise as you kind of start to conflict about it. In this phase is when you learn to really communicate, you learn to really partner as a team, you learn to really problem solve together, and you learn to really carve out your own unique identities, as well as the identity of your relationship, right? Remember, in every relationship, there's kind of three parties. You've got you, your partner, and the relationship itself. And this is where you start to develop really solid foundations because you've been through hardship, you've been through difficulties, and now you are becoming more bulletproof as a couple. This isn't about you being in honeymoon phase where actually, God forbid, you have an argument. It's the most horrible thing ever because you're not used to it. This is actually about you having so many arguments that you know how to handle them. You know how to take a time out. You know how to regulate your emotions. You know how to self-soothe. You know how to come back and repair effectively. You know how to grow and learn together. So it's not necessarily pleasant, but it is necessary because if you don't have this phase, you're not building the foundations. And a lot of couples don't get to this phase until much later in life. For a lot of people that I work with, they will be kind of plodding on through their honeymoon phase. And because they're both busy CEOs, they're busy professionals, and they're both out the house all the time, and maybe they're traveling a lot, and maybe they're, building their business, and they have a lot of distractions, and they're in this constant, kind of dopamine hits with each other because it's still so novel for such a long time. They don't hit power struggle until years down the line. And then when they hit it, it's like, oh my goodness, I'm with the wrong person. I need to end my relationship. Well, no, you don't need to end the relationship at all, but you do need to learn the skills, and you do need to lean in. And the really beautiful thing about the power struggle phase is that it only takes one person to shift the whole dynamic. I know I'm talking a lot about teamwork, but again, remember, every relationship has you within it, and you have a lot of power over your relationship. And it only takes one person to shift the whole dynamic of that relationship. So if you notice that you're in a power struggle phase, you actually have tons of leverage and power and control to learn the skills and start bringing them to the table to your partner and inspiring them to step up and change with you. It doesn't always work, right? It doesn't always work. There will absolutely be partners out there who don't want to grow and learn, who don't want to change, who don't want to take accountability, who don't want to take responsibility. And you may well end up having to leave them if you continue to do that work on yourself and you level up to become this new, incredible, empowered version of yourself. And you look at your partner and you think, you know what? This isn't enough for me. And actually, I've tried. I've put in everything that I can. And I genuinely believe that it is better for me to leave at this point. There's nothing more for me to grow and learn from here. Then absolutely you leave. Good riddance, well done. You leave and you've upgraded your identity, you've upgraded yourself, and you can go and meet someone even better. That's fantastic. But more often than not, when you change, when you start showing a new version of yourself, taking that responsibility, taking that accountability, learning those skills and bringing them to your partner will change with you because of attunement and because you will inspire them, because they will feel safer too, because you will be modeling really good behavior to them. And so that's how we transform our relationships without having to drag our partner into couples counseling. It's really what I specialize in doing, right? So once you've moved through the power struggle phase, which can actually not be that long at all, it can be quite short and efficient if, again, you know what you're doing, and I will teach you. Once you've gone through that phase, you then move into the stability phase, right? There's lots of different terms for it, but let's just call it a stability phase. But things are a little bit more stable. They're maybe not amazing. They're not euphoric. They're not feeling fantastic yet, but they're stable. And you're not arguing so much. And they feel a little bit calmer. It's kind of like the smoke has cleared and things are feeling a little bit better. And then before you know it, you start entering the bliss phase. And this is like the honeymoon phase, but times 10. It's the honeymoon phase with strong foundations. It's the honeymoon phase, but with both of your authentic selves present. You now know who you are. You've carved out your space. You've carved out your boundaries. You've communicated your needs, and you are solid and you're confident and you're together. And you can actually elevate your relationship to a whole new level because you've gone through that power struggle. And so at this point, you might start creating something new together. Maybe start building a business together. Maybe start traveling the world together. Maybe you could, buy a new house together, whatever it might be. We start creating together as a team with sovereign identities, with really healthy interdependence. And all of that love and all of those hormones come back, but in more healthy, manageable doses. And it really is a really blissful phase because you're able to focus on things outside of your relationship. The relationship isn't consuming you, but you have the strength of your relationship and you have all the benefits of the relationship. It's really a wonderful place to be. Now, you may end up going back into power struggle. Maybe you do buy that business together and then you start navigating what it's like to be co-founders together and you go back into power struggle. But again, it's not a bad thing. It just means you're learning more skills about how to strengthen your relationship and build more foundations with this new identity that you're bringing to the table of being co-founders. Power struggle is actually not about power and like who's right and who's wrong. It's more about this very normal, healthy phase of every relationship that can happen more than once, where you are just learning new skills and negotiating your identities, right? So I guess to an extent, there's a little bit of power there, but it's more about just carving out space for yourself in a healthy, sovereign, interdependent way that feels good to you and feels good to your partner. There really is a win-win here, and you absolutely can get through the power struggle phase. You just need to learn how. And above all, you need to take ownership for your side of the street. And that is exactly what I help people with. So if you want to learn a bit more about my methodology, check out the masterclass or the videos in the links. I talk a lot about it there. It's all free and very, very digestible for you to watch. Or reach out, drop me a message, drop me an email, find me on LinkedIn and tell me a little bit more about what's going on for you in your relationship. And I will share some more resources and some tools and some strategies on how I can help you. And if it makes sense, you and I can, of course, work together, whether it's in my group or whether it's in my private one-on-one containers. I would love to help you if this work resonates with you. So please do reach out. And until then, best of luck in your relationship.